Thank you for staying with us and joining us, anyone who's coming in. Now, this promises to be a really interesting next session that we have for you. Today, we've been hearing about promoting the role of exceptional project management in delivering projects that not only increase the quality of people's lives, but projects that make a difference to society. And our next panel, we'll look at stakeholder management, and we've got a great lineup to get the conversation going. Next to me, we have Juan Carlos Sadala, Chief Planning and Project Officer for DP World. Juan's responsible for managing and implementing DP World's development projects around the globe. We have Drupa Dayalal, PMP, Management Consultant, Strategy and Transformation. And Drupa has worked as a management consultant and trusted advisor across many sectors throughout her career, from public, finance, transportation, metals and mining to utilities. And last but not least, on the end over there, we have Christopher Seymour, Managing Director, Mott MacDonald, who brings with him over 30 years' experience in the industry, an experience of managing a 1,300-strong workforce across the Middle East. He's also an independent advisor on the investment committee of ENDB Real Estate Investment Trust and is an active member of the IPFA. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I know you're down at the end there, Mr. Seymour, but I'm going to start with you and ask you, as the CEO of a large corporation, how do you manage the multiple stakeholders that you have to deal with, whether on projects or in daily operations?
Thank you very much. And first of all, it is a true privilege to be sitting in front of you this afternoon. And this is a very interesting question, actually, Jane. And I think that anybody in who has an operational role, and honestly, it could be whether you're managing 10 people or whether you're managing 10,000, it is the same thing. And you could pretty much turn up for work every day and you can rely on the business creating that agenda for you. Now, it's not a healthy thing to do, but you could actually complete your job quite adequately by doing that. But the trouble is that then you tend to be a servant to the business rather than a leader. And that is not healthy. And so one of the ways that I find is quite helpful to deal with that is to actually look at what is your priority for the day. Travis Kalanick, who's the ex-CEO of Uber, had this saying, and he used to say that I have my today card. What is your today card? That one thing that you must do in order to be successful for that day. And so that is the way I look at it. And everything else is then subordinate to that. Well, around that today card, there will be stakeholders on that specific task, and those are your target, and those are the people that you really need to manage, really understand how they actually interact with that particular task that you've actually nominated as your priority for the day, and deal with it on that basis, because otherwise there is far too much noise to be able to devote adequate time to everybody. So it really is a matter of starting that day with your plan and hanging on to it.
Thank you. Drupa, now you've advised and consulted on some major projects, including mergers and acquisitions, strategy and transformation, and the setting up of project management offices as well. What is the one piece of practical advice you would give to all project stakeholders as they set out to achieve a common outcome?
Well, the key word, thank you, Jane, for your question, and thank you all for having me here. I'm really honored to be here. So the point made here was a common outcome, and I would say from the very beginning, take a step back, because that word is those words are magical. Common outcome for who? Who are all the stakeholders that we are talking about? Because different aspects of the business see different outcomes as being their success criteria. So we're looking at the IT side of business, you're looking at the business end, and you're looking at the guys on the ground. And to them, a common outcome is a very different and very difficult thing to come to agreement to. So what we need to do is actually build trust and speak at different levels to different people to try and make sure that everyone understands a common outcome. Because when we were at the smelter, I did a job there. I mean, I was working there. And down to the ground, at the smelter level, we had to wear the overalls, the boots, and the yellow hats and get down to the supervisors and speak to them about why we needed to implement an ERP. What does business improvement in efficiency and X amount of savings and this return on investment meant nothing to them. We're looking at how does it impact him on the ground, and of course being able to get all the information he needed and convincing him at the point where he was made all the difference. So it's about making sure that everyone in their own way sees what it is and how they're going to get to the common goal, but using different aspects to get there. So that's kind of the whole thing about being united and building trust within the team, because everyone has their own agenda, business units have their different KPIs, and it's all about that balance to make it forward and to everyone to act towards the common outcome.
Thank you for that. Juan Carlos, tell us how you managed to build the project management function within DP World to manage projects all over the world, please.
No, thank you, Jane, and thank you for this great opportunity to see so many colleagues and experts of this industry. I would like to sort of bring into context, we had earlier our chairman here talking about our company and our vision. It's not always usual to have project management teams as big as we have within a trade-enabling company. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to bring some context into what we do in the department. Basically, today we have a portfolio in excess of $4 billion of projects. We have 46 projects in 26 countries. So it's really a global operation that we run. Now, how we build this, we were lucky. We managed to start very small with the company. This was about 18 years ago. We had one project. And of course, we also had 3 ports in DP World. Yeah. Today, 18 years later, we have 76 businesses. So it's been organic, but I would say it's been an accelerated organic growth. Yeah. Because so much has been done, so much has been acquired by this company, so much has been developed. Throughout this process, I had the luxury of being around all this time. And we have spent a lot of time in the people that we involve in our project management team. We have selected professionals from this industry that we have picked in every single project out of all our stakeholders, whether it is government, it's consultancy, contractors. We have carefully selected this talent of people that have the personality to achieve, to thrive, and that they are end result oriented. We've managed to keep them. All these years, we rarely have seen anybody leaving our team. We have kept this talent. We are united today in our thoughts, in our approach. And we have simply then managed to build around them an environment where they are supported. We have supporting functions on costing, on control, on planning. We have given them now the tools required to focus on strategy and to deliver projects to the satisfaction of our end user. So I would say the people with the right talent and with the right tools to be able to execute this endeavor that we ask them to do. This is, I think, how we have built this department and this company.
Great. Drupa, I mean, what would you say is the largest or most significant challenge when it comes to stakeholder management? What can people learn from some of the challenges that you've had to overcome in your career?
Okay, so that's a great question, actually. It made me think. So when I look back at the challenges, one example I can give you is when I worked on a merger and acquisition project. There's always someone acquiring another company, right? So we went in representing the acquiring company, and already you're not welcome. The acquired company does not want to see you because there's a lot of fear that they have in terms of what's the future about, is my job secure, how much of my life are you going to change, and how is this company, the culture going to change with this project coming in and suddenly I have to merge with another business? What part of me and my team remain the same, and what sort of projects that we have remain the same? There's a lot of uncertainty and doubt. So the whole thing is we had to remember that we are the neutral party and show empathy towards the people, that the company that was actually being acquired, and work together and take them through the journey, because we all are human. We're not just robotic to say, well, I'm coming and I'm going to do this work and I'm coming from the company that's acquired you. It's not about that. It's about the relationship and understanding from a human perspective how things are going to change. And human nature, we don't like change because it's the fear of what is to be. It's never we have the comfort of what is. It's just the fear of what is to be. And so the whole challenge was going through the journey together, hand in hand, and making sure the process was actually comfortable in a very uncomfortable environment. It's all about that. It's just the unity and not seeing yourself as us and them. So that was the biggest challenge, and just feeling as if you're part of the team. Because one example was, after we merged the IT systems from both the companies, which system stays, how do we choose the best one, and whose job is redundant? It's so uncomfortable. And thankfully, that I wasn't part of, because you can't. It's not easy to choose who goes and who doesn't. But the main thing is, it's at least from an IT perspective, we made sure that looking at the redundant systems and the legacy systems and what actually stays. This particular company had offices in 14 countries. So we're looking at all these systems that had to come together and all these people. At the end of that, it was quite successful. It's in the UAE. The marketing team came up and wanted all existing logos to be off from the building, completely out. And so we helped the team. We were just from the IT department, but we from representing the IT and from that perspective. But we helped the team and said, all right, we'll help you remove everything, because it's not like this is what I'm here to do. We're in this together. And it was actually interesting because the mouse pads had to go, the coffee mugs. Imagine, these things that you feel attached to for years that are with you have to just go and being replaced by a new logo. And what that means is just even more phenomenal, what you don't even expect. So it's really to calm down between what's known and what's the unknown, and make sure that you have that support. That's what we brought to the project. Yeah.
Christopher, can you remember a specific experience where you wish you'd done something slightly differently when you've been working on a project, and what did you change?
Can I remember? Goodness me. I could talk all day about them, I think. I think that one of the aspects that commonly comes up with projects, clients quite often need pace. They need pace to an outcome. And if that pressure of time becomes too great, there is the danger that your team or the team that's working on the project, whether that's a design team or project management team, will start looking for shortcuts. And shortcuts generally are talked of in a very negative way. And so what you need to do is you need to guard against that acceptance starting to invade the relationships in the project team. The thing is that not all shortcuts are bad. There are good shortcuts, and good shortcuts usually come out as innovation. And what we normally see is that when project teams are pressurized, quite often that is when an innovation happens. If you pick people in a room and say, okay, we would really like you to innovate, nothing will happen. Guarantee it, nothing will happen. But if you present a difficult problem, a real problem around a real project, then quite often you will find that innovation. Now, in the heat of battle of that project, it is almost unfair to expect acceptance of your innovation at the first entry, at the first point of explaining it to your stakeholders. And so quite often, we actually have to take that out of the context of the project and accept that this is going to benefit future projects. On this project we have now, it is too high risk to actually put this into the project, but this will benefit future projects. And if you take that innovation and then talk about it and discuss it with the stakeholders, whether they're at a government level, a client level, outside that context as a future benefit, then usually that is the best way to deal with it. So to answer your problem, your question rather, the problem that you need that we commonly see to guard against is stopping that pressure of time gets so intense that people start acting in the wrong way. Yet you do have to be able to identify innovation and, if you like, save it for the future. And this is a really important point.
Is it difficult to make those decisions?
It is, and I think that this comes back to the two words that Drupa actually mentioned. One was trust, one was empathy.
Yeah.
These things are more important than technical brilliance, honestly. And if you have those skills and if you have those values in your project team, then quite often you will be able to get over those problems, and you will find a far stronger team working relationship. I always think that if your team has the necessary empathy to understand what is happening the other side of the table, then you will have a much more productive and a much happier project. And this is really important. So to make sure that you've got and this of course underlines the need for diversity in your team. And this is not just at it includes gender, but it also includes culture, but it also includes background as well. And we can honestly say that in our projects, that our highest performing projects, I can guarantee to you that there will be cross-culture and cross-gender teams, for sure.
Juan Carlos, you've managed hundreds of projects. For you, what has been the most challenging, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Jen, I think it would be unfair to focus on a specific project. I think we do so many things, and I must admit there is a challenge in everything we do.
Yeah.
There are no simple projects. Everything, it doesn't matter how big or small or simple or complex it is, there are a universe of challenges that we have to overcome as project implementation and project managers. I think for every project, if we are more generalistic in my answer, in every project we try to set up our baseline. We have a strong team engaged in the project. We do proper risk management. We spend a lot of time doing due diligence because it's much more cost effective to mitigate problems before you start implementing projects. So we do all this preparation. Nevertheless, there is an element of uncertainty that relates to stakeholder management. And I think that relates to the subject of this panel very well. That's an element that we manage as high risk in all of our projects. These stakeholders, they change depending on the project, and it requires customized approach every single time. We have instances where we have very large projects like we have today in Senegal, mentioned by our chairman, almost $1 billion project. We have technical challenges, but we are able to manage them. However, we have a universe of external stakeholders. We have government authorities, we have lenders, we have partners, we have advisors to our lenders. I mean, the time and the effort it takes to align the external stakeholders is where we see today the biggest challenge in this type of projects. And unless you manage to understand, and it goes back to empathy as well, the best you try to understand their objectives, and instead of trying to make them change, but to align into a single avenue of approach, the more successful we manage to be. We have, on the opposite side, we have big projects in existing businesses of DP World, where our main stakeholder is our own company.
Yeah.
And again, these guys have a very specific KPI on their staff, that is to be productive, to make revenue, to be efficient. And us being in their terminal, breaking things around, is already helping them. So they in this case become our main stakeholder, and we have to spend maybe an equal amount of time working with them, understanding their needs, finding that common ground. And the best we manage to do this, I think the more successful we are implementing our projects.
Thank you. Drupa, I'm going to come back to you. As a project stakeholder, what would you say are the best or the most effective questions to ask before getting started for both internal and external stakeholders?
That's a very interesting and a tough question, actually, because
Saving
there's
the hard
so
ones
many
for you.
questions. Yeah, I know, I see that. It's all right. I'll take it. The thing is that there are so many questions. I mean, you think about what's most important, everything, right? We want to know everything, because everything is just different things that are important to different stakeholders. So when we look at someone who's numbers driven, they're going to be looking at what's my return on investment, what percentage of increase am I going to get out of this project, what are we looking for, and the main question is what problem are we trying to solve here? And in one company, thinking about the same problem, everyone has a different take on it. And this is the challenge, right? So I guess I would ask, from an intangible benefit perspective, what value is this change, or what value is this project to you? What value is it to you? And, and send them with that thought and then see what they come up with, because that's how I would take it. Because, I mean, in terms of, as I mentioned, the number crunching, that's a different aspect. I'm like away from that. I'm working towards a value of a person, because if we really buy into what this is about, the value will come. We will be able to have tangible benefits if your team is really bought into it. And especially, the very first question is, how do we all work towards a common outcome? If we see the value and we all see it, you will get the value. It's natural that that's the outcome. It's going to be a common outcome of what you're aiming for. The next question is, what is the fear you have around this change, this upcoming project? What fears do you have? And when I ask that, it would be obviously in a trusted space.
Yeah.
And that is where we're hoping to get an idea of how different stakeholders are thinking and what they're considering, because then you know who's concerned about the team and what works for different stakeholders. And that's a means of getting closer to knowing the person you're working with, because that's the only way when they have an issue to understand where they're coming from. It's not a blanket problem. Everyone has their own. So it'll be like, what fears do you have? And that feeds right into your risk plan, because there you go, 10 risks already, it's done for you, because it will come through from the business. I want this, but I know that these are the risks, and these are the things that I feel might happen. And with that content, you can actually mitigate the risks and work with them to say, well, okay, this is how we can actually reduce some of these fears that you have and work towards some of these risks that are there. You will have risks, we have to accept it, but what level of risk are we okay to and willing to chance? None, and then we work around that and create our risk mitigation plan. And Juan Carlo mentioned a lot about risk, which does tie in a lot to the project management. And to have a successful project, we need to mitigate as much as we can and to understand them first, because the last thing you want is scope creep because we didn't get the risks right, to go over budget, to go over time, and there's your trifecta right there. Trouble project, bells ringing. So we really have to work towards understanding what the fears are that leads to your risks.
Christopher, what is the one piece of practical advice you would give to someone managing or working in a large corporation with multiple stakeholders with competing needs?
It's difficult to one piece of advice, just one.
One. We've only got 8 minutes.
That's true. Okay, I think the point that actually both Juan Carlos and Drupa made is the important thing. It is the communication. You fundamentally where major projects break down, you can normally trace it back to a breakdown in communication, and the need to start this right at the beginning to understand what good looks like for each of your stakeholders is so important. And it is not something that you can you can assume just based on the title of the person you're dealing with. It is important to actually pretty much interview in a way to actually understand what it is that they are pursuing in both a personal and also an organizational manner. And once you can understand that, you can then construct a communications plan that will address that. That will not stop problems happening, but what it will help is that when a problem happens, then the channels will work and you will arrive at a solution far, far quicker. We quite often find that projects have almost have that ability to keep going just as long as things are just about going okay. But as soon as you hit a problem, if the planning isn't there, then that's usually where they come to a stop. And you find yourself sometimes in the middle of a project almost starting again. And this is really this is the goal, is to stop that happening, such that it's not that problems won't happen. It's how you deal with them once they've happened. And that communication plan is usually the solution is usually in that, honestly.
Juan Carlos, we heard from your chairman a little earlier today, a bit on this subject, but DP World has operations all over the world. What is the secret of the success of those operations?
Well, we cannot give you that secret, because it's going to go public. But I think from our perspective as a department and how we operate in this company, We have done a great effort to standardize our best practices in our company and in our projects as well. That is not an easy task because to standardize, you are dictating how people do things. And people have a natural tendency to reject this. This also is a time-consuming exercise. When people have to for us to be able to manage this in the right way from our head office, we are quite centralized in the way we do our projects. And being centralized means you have to be able to collect and process information in the right way. That means it has to be standardized in a way, it has to come in a format that you can process, you can make use of this information. What we are enhancing now in terms of our ability to continue to be effective as a company and as a department as well, it's in line with the philosophy mentioned by our chairman earlier about digitalization. There's an enormous drive in our company to go digital, and we feel going digital is going to give us the efficiency and portfolio-wide ability to improve our processes. We are undergoing this process now as a department. We spend quite a lot of time selecting vendors to support us on that. We had a lot of disappointment of people that are trying to sell you off-the-shelf solutions, which don't really match what we do as a company. And at the end of the day, after big search, we found the right company. We are at the moment doing that thoroughly in all of our projects. Everything is now completely automated. We have more time to think, more time to create, and more time to deliver this consistency that we have historically been delivering as a company and as a department in our projects.
Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, begins to draw us to a close for this session. I hope you've enjoyed hearing our discussions today. Juan Carlos, Drupa, and Christopher, thank you so much for joining me on stage today. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and give them a round of applause.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.